In Tallahassee, good afternoon, Leon County, and all of our esteemed guests from other places in the world. Welcome to this afternoon's town hall meeting on Getting the Job Done, a post-election preview. I'm Kathleen Spehar, Executive Director of COCA, the Council on Cultural and Arts. So thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us for this conversation. What's now become a town hall tradition as attendees continue to join, we'll start this afternoon with a tune from singer-songwriter and COCA board chair Del Suggs. So Del, take it away.
Sure, I thought I'd do a holiday song for you since it is the holiday season. So I love this song. This song was actually written in 1950, and it's a real popular Christmas carol. Most people know it and can sing along with it. I'll do a verse of the chorus, but one of the cool things about this song that people never realize is that this is credited as being the first urban Christmas carol. Okay, prior to this song, people always wrote Christmas carols about mangers and wise men and things like that. This is the first Christmas song that's actually placed in an urban environment. And you know it's Silver Bells, and of course it's about the Salvation Army bells. It's a beautiful song. City sidewalks, busy sidewalks, dressed in a holiday style. In the air there's a feeling of Christmas. People passing, children laughing, meeting smile after smile. And on every street corner you'll hear silver bells, silver bells. It's Christmas time in the city. Ring-a-ling, hear them sing. Soon it will be Christmas Day. Silver bells, silver bells. It's Christmas time in the city. Ring-a-ling, hear them sing. Soon it will be Christmas Day. Soon it will be Christmas Day. Season's greetings.
Oh, thank you so much, Del. That was awesome. You really brightened our town hall with your music. And more about Del is in the chat, along with a quick commercial, because Del is playing this Friday at the Moon, the 35th Almost Christmas concert with Pierce Pettis. So there's still tickets available if you're interested. So thank you again so much, Del. We really appreciate you being here today. So our co-hosts for today include Amber Tynan, Executive Director of United Partners in Human Services, UPHS, and Felina Martin, Executive Director of the Institute for Nonprofit Innovation and Excellence, INI. Our collaboration together began in April when the city and county initiated LEAN, a grant program that provided stimulus for select nonprofits. As needs continue to rise in many portions of our sector, we recognize the value and power of this cross-sector collaboration. So for more about today's town hall, I'm going to turn it over to one of my co-hosts, Amber Tynan, to review some Zoom etiquette with you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kathleen. And thank you all for joining us for our 7th conversation and our last one of the year. We're thrilled to host this great lineup of guests today of our newly elected officials at the city and county level. But before we dive into our conversation, we want to review a bit of Zoom etiquette. This is a public event that is being recorded. Any questions that you may have or comments along the way, if you'd place those in the Zoom chat, access through the chat icon on the black bar located at the bottom of your screen, that would be great. Felina Martin from INI will help monitor the chat along with myself and Kathleen, and Erica Thaler from COCA will be monitoring social media to guide guests into the town hall and collect any questions that may pop up. Our town hall today gives us all an opportunity to get to know our new county and city commissioners. If you have a question, indicate if it's for a specific commissioner or if it's for all of them and add it to the chat. Questions will be presented in the order in which we receive them. As Kathleen stated, all 3 of us will co-moderate and we'll do our best to provide an opportunity to answer every question that is asked. Now, it's with great pleasure that we introduce our esteemed guest today, and we'll start first with Kathleen.
So thank you so much, Amber. I have the great pleasure to introduce Commissioner Porter. Jacqueline Jack Porter grew up in Brazil and lived in South Florida before moving to Tallahassee. She earned multiple degrees from Florida State University and worked at the Office of Criminal Conflict and Civil Regional Counsel, First Region. A passionate community builder, Jack's work advanced progress on issues that matter to our neighborhoods and empowered neighborhood leaders to advocate for their interests in local affairs. Jack served as commissioner on the Tallahassee-Leon Commission on Status of Women and Girls and received numerous accolades, including being named one of Tallahassee Democrats' 25 Women to Know and a National Knight Foundation 880 Cities Emerging City Champion. Jack worked at the Florida Department of Environmental Protection as a Florida Gubernatorial Fellow, and she's a proud member of the United Faculty of Florida, partner of the Florida Education Association. Thank you so much, Commissioner Porter, for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic. Next, we have Brian Welch, who moved to Tallahassee from Mississippi in 1997. He attended both TCC and Florida State, where he earned his undergraduate degree in political science and later obtained his graduate degrees in both applied American politics and policy, if that's not a mouthful, and educational leadership at the University of West Florida. He has lived in Northeast Tallahassee since 1997 and has been a social studies teacher at Childs High School since 2007. A diehard Timberwolf, Brian has served in many roles during his tenure at Childs, including as the voice of the Timberwolves football team, key club sponsor, Youth Leadership Tallahassee Coordinator, Business Advisory Council Coordinator, and Vice President and founding member of the Childs High School Foundation. At Childs, Brian has had the opportunity to lead many community service endeavors, including the March of Dimes Men in Labor program, the annual Wolf Dash 5K, and numerous canned food drives benefiting Second Harvest. He's had the pleasure of traveling the world with the students, leading 6 international educational tours, including trips to France, Italy, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Australia, and New Zealand, among others. He is a member of Leadership Tallahassee Class 36, as well as serves on the board of the Foundation for Leon County Schools and the Centerville Conservation Community Homeowners Association. Welcome, Brian.
Oh, thank you very much, Amber. I appreciate that. And thank you all for having me. It's a great privilege to speak with you today.
Welcome. And I have the privilege of introducing Attorney Cummings. So for those of you, I say Attorney Cummings, so Attorney Cummings, please forgive me for that because I know you're on a personal level, so you'll always be Attorney Cummings. But I definitely have the pleasure of introducing Commissioner Carolyn Cummings to you. And it gives me great pleasure to do that. And she is a native of Mississippi, in case you're not aware. She received her degrees from Alcorn State University and studied at the University of Southern Mississippi and Laney College before completing her Juris Doctorate from the University of West Florida Law School. She lived in Leon County, or has lived in Leon County for over 30 years and serving in a variety of professional roles, including general counsel, legal advisor, senior attorney for various state departments. And by far, she was a partner with Cummings and Hobbs, PA, and now owns Carolyn Cummings, PA, where she practices family law and probate. She's an active leader and mentor for the Tallahassee Bar Association, Tallahassee Women Lawyers Association, and the Florida Bar Association. So that, again, is a mouthful, Tallahassee Bar Association and the Florida Bar Association, just to clarify. And Attorney Cummings is also a member of several professional organizations, including the Tallahassee Barista Bar Association, the Tallahassee Bar Association, obviously, and then the Tallahassee Women Lawyers Association and the Florida Bar Association. Obviously, very involved and very proud to be affiliated with those associations. As well, Commissioner Cummings is an active member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority and Bethel Missionary Baptist Church. She is the proud mother of Dr. Terrell Cummings, a 2004 Rickards High School graduate and now a practicing anesthesiologist in Arlington, Texas. Commissioner Cummings, welcome so much, and I'm so very excited that you're on the panel.
Thank you, Ms. Martin, and thank all of you all. Thanks for that beautiful introduction, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
I think I'm supposed to follow up again. I was way too excited. You should not have given me Commissioner Cummings to introduce. I haven't seen her in a long time too, so I'm really excited. But again, thank you for joining us, all of you who are participating as participants, as well as those who are tuned in on social media. We're so excited to have you here. And by far, you've been in office roughly for, this is our very first question out the gate, so I have the challenge of doing that. But all three of you, you've been in office for roughly a month now. What have you learned so far that has surprised you? And so we'll start in order with Commissioner Cummings, and then we'll go to Commissioner Porter, and followed by Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Ms. Martin, and thank all of you again. As far as being surprised, I have been in office, well, it really hasn't been a month yet, but I am delighted with the involvement of the community. I have had the opportunity to just meet so many people. People have reached out to me and to my aide to meet me on Zoom or to meet me out in the public air. That has been private citizens, individuals involved with organizations, entities, the faith-based community, and I'm just delighted and elated at the level of involvement of the individual citizens here in Leon County. I can't say it's surprising, but I can say that I have certainly been enlightened by meeting so many individuals in this county that are concerned about all the citizens. They are concerned about the health, safety, and welfare, and they are concerned about county government. So less than 30 days on the job, that has been my most enlightening experience, to meet so many people, and looking forward to meeting even more. My calendar is full with appointments, and I certainly welcome that. Thank you.
Fantastic. Commissioner Porter.
I would say that, one of the most surprising things I've been going through, I've had the opportunity of having some orientation meetings with different departments, and it is just incredible how much the city actually does and how much work our city employees and staff do. So that has been surprising. I mean, every day I feel like I'm learning something new about what we do or some program. So that's been really exciting. On the flip side, I would say something that I knew about, but in practice is still a little bit surprising, is how difficult it can be to really get things done and to do things on a practical level. There's a lot of restrictions and a lot of rules and laws and things that are in place for good reason, but that really can be barriers for getting the ball moving on certain very urgent needs that our community is facing. So that's definitely a struggle, but overall, it's been just a lot of fun learning how much we actually do.
Great, thank you. And Commissioner Welch.
Yes, thank you. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I've got my ear pods in, sorry. I would echo Commissioner Cummings. It's been surprising the extent to which people want to talk to me. Which, I guess you kind of figure comes with the territory, but my calendar is definitely full. I've been pleasantly surprised with the welcome that I've received at the county amongst staff, amongst the professionals that work there every day. They really are a world-class organization. And coming from a school system, I certainly appreciate world-class organizations and the ability to get things done and help facilitate. And so the county staff has been incredibly kind to me, from the county administrator all the way down to the folks who are eager to help move furniture around in my office. So from that extent, that's been a wonderful experience. I've been surprised how long some of our meetings can go. We've had 3 meetings. At the county, we've had 2 commission meetings, and we've had a blueprint meeting last week, which with Commissioner Porter. And I'm sure she probably also was thinking, like, man alive, this is going on forever. So those are some long meetings, 4 and 5 hour meetings well into the evening. But I would say any surprises that I've experienced have been really pleasant surprises. It's obviously a very exciting opportunity to participate in your community in this way and to serve citizens in this way. And so I would just echo Commissioner Cummings and say that everybody's interest in me, relatively all of a sudden, is surprising but pleasant and great. And it's exciting to meet all these people that you kind of hear about in the ether, but you don't really necessarily know. And now you're getting to see them in a way that you didn't see them before. And also, to Commissioner Porter's point, getting to visit and see all the operations of our community. I did Leadership Tallahassee, as I know a lot of you have done, and you get to see a little bit. But, for instance, yesterday, Kyle, my aide, and I got to tour the dwellings off Bluntstown Highway, which was an extremely eye-opening experience. It's something you've heard about, but you don't necessarily drive out there and take a look at it. So to have the opportunity to do those things really opens your eyes to some of the aspects of our community that you may have not been aware of before.
Thank you so much. That's great. Thank you so much, Commissioner Welch. And thank you, Felina. So I get to go next. So my question for all of our new commissioners, you all have this extensive community experience, community activists, community organizers, and so on and so forth. However, here's your question. What about your role as a public servant fits you best? And we're going to start with Commissioner Porter, then go to Commissioner Welch, and then Commissioner Cummings. So Commissioner Porter.
This has been, one of the most gratifying experiences, as a candidate and now as a commissioner, is what you learn about yourself and your strengths and some of your weaknesses as well. I think that one of my strong suits as a public servant is my ability to listen, my ability to really weigh different points of view and consider alternatives. I think that that's something that is really, really essential in any leadership role, but especially when we're dealing with, really contentious issues here. Really, the stakes are very high. People have very strong opinions, and it is our job as representatives, not, in my view, not just to push my own agenda or my own ideas, but to really evaluate, where are we as a community? What are our priorities? And how do I make a decision that's in the best interest of the most people here for the long term and for the future? So I think that those are some of my best qualities that I'm having a lot of fun using them, and I look forward to using them more and growing in them.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Commissioner. Let's see, we're moving on now to Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Kathleen. I think that being a public servant as a high school teacher for 14 years, I've kind of been a public servant for a lot of that time. And I think what you realize in this role is you're really solving other people's problems, and you're kind of taking them on as your own and trying to find an expeditious resolution to those problems. And so for me, as a teacher, you're really meeting people where they are, and you're really, kind of filling one of those sacred roles in somebody's life. And as a public elected official, I think it's a similar dynamic. You're just trying to help people as best you can. And so the essence of what we do is helping people. And, it's a tremendous honor to have a platform to do that on, like this, as a public servant, no matter whether you're a high school teacher or you're a priest or a counselor or a social worker. I mean, all of those people, police officers, everybody that does that stuff is a public servant. And essentially, you're just trying to help people, and it's all about scales of platforms, whether you're doing it on a small scale or a large scale. And I think Commissioner Cummings and Commissioner Porter would share that sentiment with me, that we really have a privilege now to do this at a bigger scale. And I mean, what a great opportunity, right? To impact people's lives in a positive way really is the essence of public service. And it is just a tremendous honor to get to do it.
Thank you, Commissioner. It's a great answer. Commissioner Cummings.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I believe being a public servant, my role as a public servant, really epitomizes the essence of who I am. I've always felt that I had the spiritual gift of helps. And of course, that helps translates into serving others. So it began growing up in Mississippi, helping a paraplegic that lived next door, helping an elderly widow by taking her meals on Sunday afternoon after we've eaten, just serving at whatever level of capacity you find yourself in. So my servanthood evolved while I was in college. I pledged in a sorority, which is a public service entity. I've been involved in that sorority for the last over 30 years, again, giving back to the community. And like Commissioner Welch said, serving on the Leon County Commission, it just enlarges that territory. I am still the same servant at heart, but I have more individuals to serve. And I'm serving on a different level, on a different scale. I've always been committed to the Leon County community. My law firm is here in Frenchtown. I've always prided myself on serving my clients, giving them reduced or no rates for some of my legal services. And that's my way, that has been my way over the years of being a servant, giving back, feeling the needs of individuals. And so now I believe that I can serve as a public servant on this commission while also looking out for the best interests of all the citizens of Leon County. So servant, that is what I am, and that's what I have stood for all my life.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Commissioner Welch. How do you envision elevating the nonprofit sector through your role as an elected official, giving our impact, creating the quality of life for our neighbors, the economic impact we make here locally? How do you envision elevating our sector?
Yeah, thank you, Amber. I think that we all acknowledge the importance of the nonprofit community to our broader community, and you guys really fill gaps and serve people like we were speaking about earlier. As an elected official, I think it's important that we acknowledge that. Number one, the role that our nonprofits play in the community is important, and the work that you do is vital to giving services to the people in our community that need them. I think as an elected official, right now, I think my colleagues would share with you that we're just sponges right now. We're soaking up as much as we can. And I think that is important at this stage of the game, is learning as much as you can. Like I said, I visited the dwellings yesterday. I'm hoping to get out and get tours of as many programs and learn as much about the programming that is offered in the community as I can. And so I think as a elected official, knowing, it's like G.I. Joe, I guess, knowing is half the battle. So really getting out there, I got the opportunity to serve Meals on Wheels a few years ago in Leadership Tallahassee. I mean, those kinds of experiences can really define your perspective when you're talking about how we deliver services to folks and in what mechanisms we do that. So as an elected official, I think my vision of that is I need to get out and learn as much as I can about the programming that the nonprofit community offers, and then do what I can to support that programming.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Cummings, your thoughts?
Yes, thank you so much. It is unquestionable that the nonprofit sector plays a very vital role, not only in Leon County, but in the entire state of Florida. The positive impact that nonprofits have here locally on our families, our children, the entire segment as a whole, is unequivocal. It's unquestionable. And so I believe as a Leon County Commissioner, I need to make sure that the nonprofits remain relevant. And in order to do that, I have to make sure that there is always a seat at the table for nonprofits. there are services that nonprofits provide that government cannot provide. Government does not provide. Nonprofits touch so many segments of our community with individualized services that would clearly go unattended if we excluded nonprofits to any degree. So I believe as a commissioner, it is my role not only to make sure you're at the table, but make sure through me that you have a voice at the table. We need to make sure services are not decreased or depleted. And I think perhaps to ensure that, you know, we can look at the different services that are provided by various entities. I know some of the nonprofits might mirror each other as far as services, but guess what? We need everybody. We need everybody doing their piece so that we all can become a viable whole here in Leon County. So I welcome the nonprofits. I believe that nonprofits are here to stay, and rightly so, because you're a vital, essential part of our community. Thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you very much. Commissioner Porter.
You know, I agree with what's been said by Commissioner Welch and Cummings. I would say that, you know, I think that we all need to, as elected officials, take a hard look at ourselves and how we as bodies are, you know, contributing to the conditions that people are living in and the struggles that people are facing, that then nonprofits are serving. You know, they're filling that need. And so however we can make your jobs easier and your lives better by seeing, you know, maybe we can intervene, and so that, you know, to relieve this burden off of you. So often nonprofits are placed in the position where they are, you know, really picking up the slack where the public sector has left off, and oftentimes that's not fair. I think that our local governments, you know, doing a better job supporting nonprofits. You know, not all nonprofits are created equal. Whether it's, you know, performance standards, performance measures, making sure that we're offering the support for nonprofits, for reporting requirements, for applying to grants, for all of that stuff is really essential. And then just building good relationships, making sure that we're including nonprofits in these conversations, that we know how our actions are impacting their work and vice versa, how we can avoid duplicating services, how we can amplify each other's work. You know, that's going to be an ongoing conversation. We've got a really robust community here. People have already been doing that, but making sure that you know, as a new commissioner, that I'm stepping into that role to continue to learn and facilitate those conversations and highlight the work that y'all are doing.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. So we're going to take some questions from Facebook and from the chat right now.
Yes, Kathleen, if you don't mind, I think I'm going to jump in and interject, because the commissioners did address the question that was lined up next for me to put out there. And particularly, we have one of our participants who essentially is asking the same relative question. So if you don't mind, Kathleen, I'm going to go ahead and start with that one. That comes to the panelists from Sika Rose Green. And Sika, her question for the commissioners is definitely good afternoon. Leon County Human Service Organizations provide important and in many cases life-saving services to our community citizens. While we are finally looking to turn the corner on the pandemic, we are not out of the woods yet. Do you see our role as nonprofits increasing on the other side of the pandemic? And what do you see as the city and county's role in supporting these critical agencies? And so let's go ahead and start that with basically whoever would like to start that conversation. If you'll just unmute your mic, and we'll start with whoever would like to go first.
I'll go ahead. Can I go?
Yes, please, Commissioner Welch, you're welcome to go.
Oh, sorry, I think my dog just barked. Yeah, I think that, obviously with the COVID vaccine being rolled out this week and shipped out and actually being delivered in hospitals and healthcare facilities all over the country, I believe Tallahassee has also received some of those. I think that once you start to see the widespread rollout of the vaccine, then the subsequent sort of hopeful economic recovery that's going to go along with that. But I think before you get to that point, there's going to be some hurting going on in the community when we talk about housing, when we talk about jobs, employment, small business impacts, of all of those things. And we're hopeful, I know at the local level, that we'll receive some more money from the federal government in terms of CARES Act funding, which can help fill some of those gaps. But I think when you're talking about facilitating, filling gaps in service provision, the local governments need to partner with the nonprofits to deliver those services. So in any way possible, we have to make that a priority. Local government can't do it all on its own. When we're talking about an unprecedented time with the impacts of COVID and all of the sort of implications that go along with that, I think it is vital for the local government elected bodies to partner with with the nonprofit sector to try and facilitate the delivery of mitigation when we're talking about recovery and rollouts of vast vaccine and healthcare programs and management programs and things like that. Because government just can't do it all on its own, like Commissioner Porter said. We have to partner with our nonprofits to help fill those gaps. And I think that the concerns with COVID going forward, as we sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel and get towards the end of this nightmare, hopefully, hush Maggie, hopefully we will see a partnership throughout the community. Because again, we're talking about tentacles of the community, right? You have local government has a role, and then the nonprofits are sort of out delivering services at where people are. And so certainly we have to foster a partnership to facilitate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Welch. And Commissioner Proctor, I see that you've raised your hand.
Yeah, I would second what Commissioner Welch said. We are in a position where already we're leaning more and more on our nonprofits, service providers to step in due to COVID. I mean, I think it's been it's been amazing to see the way that people have stepped up in providing masks, in providing food, in all kinds of resources that we've needed throughout this pandemic. I would also say, we really need the federal government and the state government to do their job and help us. Local governments are struggling. We are about to see hundreds of individuals evicted from their homes, and we don't have a plan, and they don't have support. And so I'm already hearing we had a workshop on housing this last week at the city level. So it's already happening, and where we're leaning more and more on our nonprofit providers to provide direct assistance and counsel and advice to, because really they are some of the biggest people on the ground. So definitely, I think that we're going to see that, and we desperately need support from our federal and state partners, because local governments, we just do not have the funding or honestly the authority to do a lot of what needs to be done to make sure that people are taken care of during this pandemic and beyond.
And Commissioner Cummings, we'd love to give you an opportunity to address that same question from Sika as well.
Yes, thank you. I certainly echo what has been said. I think we have a clear demonstration that there is a recognition that nonprofits are essential. If you look at even the CARES Act funding that came down, close to 25% of that funding was allocated to our nonprofits. So we're talking about out of 52 million, close to 25% of that was allocated to our nonprofits. To me, that's a clear recognition at all levels, especially with the powers that be on the county level, the administration, the commissioners, that the nonprofits do a great job. There's confidence in the nonprofits. There was confidence as far as that allocation, because there was a recognition that you have your pulse on the community. You have your pulse on a certain segment of the population that you serve on a daily basis. That will not diminish, in other words. I believe that demonstration and that level of commitment on the part of the nonprofits to the citizens of Leon County will increase. And there will be an increased recognition of your role, your valuable role, your important role, as it impacts positively the lives of those individuals, the lives of those in our community. So I see the role of nonprofits increasing. As far as determining what nonprofit, I think we have to look at the level of services that are provided. We have to look at the need as well. A needs assessment for certain areas, certain segments of the population, for certain services, I think would be very instrumental in determining what groups, what nonprofits are doing a good job, and what nonprofits need more funding to provide more services to the needs of the citizens in Leon County. So I see an increase, not a decrease.
Great. We thank you so much for your responses to that. And there are several other questions that have come in, and so I'm very excited that we do have an active participating group who's interested in asking questions. Sika Green says, thank you, with the exclamation mark on there. So we appreciate that. There is a follow-up to that. So let's see, Kathleen and Amber, if you don't mind, I want to make sure we address Marsha's question, because she'd like to kind of continue the conversation a little bit more. And her question is, how do you see better involving the people, their expertise and experience in rural communities to advise and counsel city and county experts? So that is her follow-up question. And anyone would like to unmute and start first?
I would envision educating our people, educating our public servants. I think workshops would be in order. I think there might be a lack of knowledge as far as the expertise that we have among the nonprofit sector. And so I believe that coming together in a forum or several forums and making those available not only for elected officials and their employees, but for the residents as well. I would envision town halls or just forums where individuals in certain segments of the community would have better accessibility to those meetings by holding them in different segments of the city. But in doing so, we would have individuals that would not only educate elected officials, but those individuals on the services that the nonprofits provide. I think many times we have individuals that are in need of services. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the information to trigger those services. So I think we're going to have to probably do a more boots on the ground type of initiation for those individuals, and just let the public know what is available, what services are available. And then they would also in turn know the different organizations that provide those services, and we can reach more people. But without knowledge, the people will not come. So we have to take the services to them and just let them know what is being offered.
And thank you, Commissioner Cummings, for addressing that question from a nonprofit sector perspective. And my apologies to Marsha. Her chat kind of broke up. She was initially looking and addressing that question from the university and college community perspective. So again, Marsha, I apologize on that. So if we were to look at this particular question, and I'll repeat it. It's how do you see better involving the people, their expertise and experience in world communities to advise and counsel city and county experts? And it's from the perspective of really utilizing the universities and colleges. And so again, Marsha, I apologize about that. Commissioner Welch, Commissioner Proctor, if you would like to address that question from that perspective. And of course, Commissioner Cummings, if you would like to chime in from looking at the university and college perspective.
Sure, I can, I think that both are, from the university perspective, and because we see an intersection of both, a lot of people who are involved in certain community groups or even nonprofit groups are also, faculty or staff or students at our university. So I think that, in some ways those certainly overlap. I think that, one thing that I've been doing is hosting weekly, I just started hosting weekly town halls every Thursday at 7 p.m. as a great way to solicit feedback and input and provide updates on what the city is doing. It's certainly tricky because there's the balance between the time that you need to make sure that people are included, that their voices are heard, that their input is received, and moving things along in an efficient way. But I do think that we've already seen so many community groups and neighborhood groups and even university members offer their expertise, offer their time, and many times I don't think that the city has done the best job in listening to them and honoring their volunteer hours and their expertise and their hard work. And so it goes both ways with nonprofit communities, with our partners, with neighborhoods. We need to make sure that we are actively including them as partners. And we're not just wasting their time, because we have these experts in our community and we are so lucky to have them. And we need to make sure that we are listening to them for our sake, for the future of the city, and for their sake as well, as residents who have a stake in what happens.
Commissioner Cummings, did you want to readdress that particular question?
Yes, absolutely. I think it would be very significant if we could foster, establish, first of all, relationships, and then foster those relationships with our universities and our community colleges. We have an enormous amount of wealth of knowledge at those universities. We have students that are studying in specific areas, and I believe that they could adequately attend our town hall meetings, or we could partner with them to establish a calendar so that citizens would be aware of the dates and the time to just educate us on topics of interest. And I think that education would benefit all of us, not just the citizens, but it would benefit not just the citizens in need, but those of us that are in positions to make decisions, to vote on decisions and initiatives that would clearly benefit our community. So I would say shame on us as a city, as a county, if we don't tap into the resources that we have right here at our universities and at Tallahassee Community College, as well as at Lively. Thank you.
Wonderful. And Commissioner Welch, I believe you had
something
to add.
Just real quick, I just wanted to say, just to sort of to go along with my colleagues, I think what we're talking about when we talk about involving our universities and our educational community in Leon County, we obviously have we're very lucky to have so many people come here from all over the world to get educations, to do research at our Mag Lab. And I think what we're talking about really is engaging other people's perspectives. I tell my students all the time, it's about trying to change your perspective and see through somebody else's eyes and see life through the filter or the lens of someone else's experience. And we have a great privilege here of having people from all over the world come to Tallahassee and get to live here. I mean, I think if you look at just the three of us, Commissioner Cummings and I both grew up in Mississippi, and that obviously had a big impact on how we see the world and how we've come to develop ourselves as servants. And even though we're generationally different, that has had an impact on our vision, our perspective. And Commissioner Porter grew up in Brazil, I think, right? So, I mean, I think you have that. It allows you to embrace and engage with the perspective of people from another place. And I think now you see, as Tallahassee is changing, you see these different perspectives coming into service leadership roles. And it is our job to learn from them, to soak up as much as we can, to engage with them, to reach them where they are. Don't expect them to come to the courthouse or city hall to engage. We need to go to them. They're right down the road. And so when we talk about engaging with the value assets that we have in Leon County, we certainly we have a wealth of perspectives to learn from and help use that to help shape our policies as local electeds.
That's great. I know we had a lot of questions for you, but we've had some great questions asked in the chat. And Jeremy asks, and I think you all have spoken to this a bit based on your strengths, but what tools do you all bring to the table to help build consensus with your respective commissions?
I would say, you know, I think that it's a human dynamic when we talk about relationships and how folks are going to work together. You know, obviously, Commissioner Cummings and I, being two new commissioners on the Leon County Commission, have reshaped that dynamic, and hopefully for the better. And so I think that it's just a personality thing. Obviously, it takes time to build relationships, to build a certain level of trust. But I can tell you from my perspective, having been to 2 county commission meetings now and having interacted with my colleagues to the extent that I have, and you guys know we can't talk about issues in private, I can tell you that the level of collegiality, the level of respect, the level of deference that is given to each other is tremendous. And I think that the gravity of being in this position really lends itself to collegiality, to working together, to trying to create a consensus as you move forward on very important issues that affect all corners of the county. Commissioner Cummings is elected at large, and I'm elected by District 4. And so even though we have sort of different constituencies, we still work towards the same goal. And I think that just the gravity of that situation and the gravity of the individual personalities have an impact on consensus building. And I certainly feel like we're moving in the right direction. And I'm sure Commissioner Porter probably feels the same way on the city commission. But I think it's just a matter of recognizing your personality strengths and working together for the betterment of all the citizens. That is kind of like the big thing that hangs over all of us, is doing well for the residents that we serve.
Commissioner Porter, okay, great.
Yeah, you know, I think that I bring a skill set that is fresh because I'm brand new, that suggests, you know, alternatives. I'm coming from a little bit more of an organizing background, organizing communities. And I think that that's important. I think that each commissioner has something unique that they offer and that they bring, and to see the dynamic change and to bounce ideas off of each other is a lot of fun. And that's something that, you know, I'll be working on developing as a new body, how we're going to be working with each other and what strengths we all bring. But I think that, as I mentioned before, you know, considering alternatives, coming up with other ideas, asking different questions. You know, I, as the youngest woman commissioner, is a unique perspective just in virtue of my identity. And so I think that that's something too that is new and important to bring to this commission.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Cummings, any parting thoughts on this one?
Yes, thank you so much. I recognize that as one of 7 commissioners, I can have the greatest idea in the world. However, if some of my other commissioners of the majority do not buy into that great idea, it's just that, a great idea. It does not impact anybody. It doesn't do any of the citizenry of Leon County any good. I believe I bring to the table the voice of conciliation. In my profession, in my practice, one of the things that we have to do before we get to a trial is we have to participate in mediation. And one of the things we know is that in mediation, you have to give a little and take a little. You have to recognize that you can't always have everything you want, can't always have your way. And the other person on the other side, the other constituents have to recognize that as well. And I have used that same argument in many cases, impressed upon clients of mine that, look, you have to be willing to work out some of the issues in order to affect the good. So if we let great issues or great ideas die, nobody has participated in any of the good. So I believe that I have the ability to sit on that body and to work conciliation between my fellow commissioners with the one goal in mind of doing what's best for the citizens of Leon County, and not taking it as a personal defeat or anything grandiose from a personal standpoint. But I have the ability to look at what is going to be in the long run in the best interest of all citizens of Leon County. Now, as Commissioner Welch said, I was elected at large. I'm concerned about the entire county, but I'm just as concerned about the east, west, north, south. Every segment of Leon County, I have a concern with. So if Commissioner Welch has specific concern about the Northeast, guess what? I am concerned about the Northeast as well. I'm concerned about the congestion in the Northeast with the traffic. I'm concerned about the lack of recreational parks in the Northeast. And that's part of me being an at-large commissioner. And aside from that, I'm concerned about the overall well-being of Leon County. So clearly, I think I can bring the factions together on that commission if it needs to be done at any point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings. That was great. We have a lot of questions coming in fast and furious, and we're starting to get down to our time. So we're going to just try to go kind of a little more lightning round on this. We're also been monitoring social media. So far, no questions from there, but we will try to answer any that come through. So my question's from Lenny Marshall. How do you see, we're going to start with Commissioner Porter on this. How do you see yourself as a public service in uniting our widely divided communities and repairing the damaged relationships to get us all working together for the good of the present and future generations?
Okay, I'm just reading the question because that was a bit of a mouthful.
Yep, so
yeah. I think that we have to start by being honest. We really have to start by being honest and addressing where we have failed, addressing where we have gone wrong, and be able to accept that. And you know, I was proud of the broad-based support that I received during my candidacy, and that's something that I intend to, you know, relationships that I want to maintain. We've got to be honest with people. That's just the place to start. I think people get really upset, rightfully so, when they feel that they're being pandered to, that their concerns are not being validated or taken seriously. They feel like they're just going crazy, you know, going up against a brick wall. You know, that's really, I think, where we need to start to address those divisions in this community, because they are there. And if we ignore them, they will not go away.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to go to Commissioner Cummings now. What's your thoughts?
I believe we must clearly address the elephant in the room, and that's polarization. I think there's been a clear recognition that our community is polarized, but we have got to take the first step, and that's to admit that there is polarization. And then we need to get down to the brass tactics of what is causing that polarization. I think we need to have forums. We need to bring in educated people to address the polarization. I think we talked about inequities in healthcare, inequities in that has been, I think, highlighted by the pandemic. There's inequities in affordable housing. There's inequities in livable wages, and a lot of that stems from racism, systemic racism. That's the elephant in the room. I think we have got to address it. All segments of the population, we need to come together, address it, and at some point we have got to breathe and ask for peace and harmony in our community. But until we do that, until we sit up and recognize that we do have issues, there will always be issues. So we need to address those.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Commissioner Welch.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what my colleagues have said, I think that we have a national, state level discourse that has become extremely vitriolic and unproductive, hyperpartisan and tribal. I think that probably is not as big of a problem locally. But when we talk about, and Mr. Marshall's question was to divided communities, I mean, I think we all acknowledge in Leon County that we have economic and educational segregation. We have healthcare segregation. So we have some issues with that stuff. And I think it starts, like Commissioner Cummings says, with sort of acknowledging that you have those problems and then taking active steps to try and repair that damage and bring everybody together. Now, I'd like to think that Leon County, we do have a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a sense of place. But I think it starts with invigorated leadership. I think if you're going to build bridges, you got to start on one side of the ravine and start on the other and kind of meet in the middle. And so I think that making policy decisions that are directly impactful of some of those divisions, building schools and renovating schools in the right parts of town, directing our development to parts of town where we have underdevelopment or lack of equitable development, where we're talking about affordable housing, all of those things. I think the Children's Services Council is a step in the right direction to providing some relief and direct economic impacts to targeted problems that could help minimize some of the problems we have with educational and economic segregation. So I think as elected officials, you just have to acknowledge there's a problem, and then everybody has to provide more than lip service to it and actually make votes that have impacts. And I think our community did that with the Children's Services Council and a 60-something% approval of that. And I would be hopeful that with the right guidance and responsibility, that would have a tremendous impact on some of these generational community-based problems that we have.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. As many of you can see, we're really close to our final time. The commissioners have agreed to stay over for a few minutes, so we're going to go ahead and do that. If those of you that are joining us today have to go, thank you so much for joining us, and check back at our websites, our 3 respective websites, for recordings and additional information and answers to the questions that we won't be able to get to today. But I'm going to give this back over to Felina for the next question.
Thank you, Kathleen. And this is a very exciting night because you are asking a lot of questions, and it's actually all 3 of us, Amber, Kathleen, and myself, who are monitoring the chat, as well as Erica Thaler as well too. So thank you so much. I do want to make sure I address this question that has been posed by Kenneth Barber. And it says, OEV captures global economic data for Leon County, but the data doesn't drill down to economically distressed communities. That data is important to decision-making for economic development, especially in those distressed communities. As new commissioners, will you commit to expanding the data collection to include economically distressed communities? And whichever commissioner would like to jump in with that. And let's see, Commissioner Proctor, I know you've got to leave in a few minutes. Would you like to address that first?
Sure. You know, I would have to honestly take a look at more specifically what data is being collected and captured, and, you know, how we're using it, how we're analyzing it. I think that OEV and that data is a tremendous resource. But it's up to us to make sure that, one, we're capturing what we need to capture, and that we are gleaning from that data what we need to glean, and making sure that it's informing our policy decisions. So, you know, absolutely, I think that, you know, typically the more data, the better. And I absolutely will commit to, you know, making sure that we're using that to inform our decisions in the future.
Wonderful. Commissioner Welch, would you like to, oh, Commissioner Cummings, please go right ahead.
Yes, I would be concerned with whether or not a significant segment of the data is being excluded, and for what reasons. I think that if we got data that's skewed one way or another, because we know that we have not included a certain, you know, certain segments of the population, I'm not sure how that benefits anyone. So if there is an adverse effect based on the question, based on the exclusion of certain data, I, as a commissioner, would clearly be interested in knowing what those adverse effects are. And I would also want to know why a certain portion of the data is excluded, because we do use data from OEB and other entities in our city and county to determine the level of funding and many other advantages that provided by the city and the county government. And I certainly would not want any segment of the population to be excluded. So I would want to know the reasons, analyze it, and then make a determination of what needs to be done at the governmental level. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would second that. Yeah, I don't know the extent to which our data is lacking information. I believe that the folks at OEV do a good job, and Christina Paredes and Daryl Jones and that crew over there. I know they are committed to doing the right thing, and I would support, you know, getting them the information that they need. Obviously, we need as much information as we can get. I just don't know the extent to which we're missing information.
Fantastic. And we really do appreciate your responses and your willingness to stay over a couple of minutes. And I do, please accept my apology, Commissioner Porter, for the saying the wrong last name. I apologize for that. I'm so sorry. I'm giving you a brand new last name and marrying you off to some different family. But I apologize about that. And thank you for bringing that to my attention from one of our participants. It does not look or appear as if we have any additional questions from our participants, at least those who've registered. And we're very excited. Obviously, the three of you are very popular. You have generated a number of questions, as well as we had over 40 people register, and I don't know how many participating on live through our Facebook channels. And so we want to thank you for your time. I will turn it back over to my partners in crime, either Kathleen or Amber, as there are some closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Felina. Yes, so thank you so much again, commissioners, for your time today. We know that, and thank you again for running over. We, as a tradition in our town halls, the questions that we didn't get to in the chat, because there are a few in there, we will wrap back around with you and get those answers, and then put those on our respective social media pages and on our Facebook pages as those answers come in. So thank you so much for those questions. Amber, did you have any other comments before our last remarks?
Sure. Just wanted to encourage everybody who is participating a few ways that you can take action this December. Our cohort has been working with Sachs Media Group. Thank you, Felina and Annie, for helping bridge that connection to really get an understanding of the perception of nonprofits and how we change that narrative to be seen as valuable and providing vibrancy to that quality of life. That survey link is in our chat. If you wouldn't mind completing that, we would greatly appreciate that. It will be open through the end of this month. Additionally, we have established the Big Bend Collaborate Facebook group. It's a great way for our organizations to collaborate not only with one another, but to build community with those you don't know. So we encourage that. And lastly, as we are in this holiday season, we encourage each of you, if you haven't already, to pay it forward in some small way, just to provide joy to others. As you know, it has been a hell of a year. And every small token is a gift to someone. So consider paying it forward as we close out the remainder of this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Felina Martin and Amber Tynan for helping us host this today. Thank you. Huge gratitude to our commissioners, Commissioner Cummings and Welch and Porter, for your time today in our Zoom room, and especially thank you to all the community members that have joined us either in the Zoom or on Facebook or other social media for this conversation today. A recording of this town hall will be available by the end of the week on all of our respective websites. Our next town hall is scheduled for Tuesday, January 19th at noon, where we'll host a recovery roundtable for arts and culture featuring Shane Shapiro from Sound Diplomacy. So if that's all a mystery to you, please come and join us on the 19th to talk about recovery. In the meantime, be well, stay safe, and have a wonderful holiday. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.